The sanitary transport of refrigerated food is a collaborative effort between the shipper, loader, carrier, and receiver. The burden of safety is shared between all parties involved and often is supported by legal contracts. It's important for all parties and persons involved in the integrated refrigerated transport supply chain to be aware of regulatory requirements as well as industry best practices to ensure safe transit of cargo. The Food Safety Modernization Act, or FSMA, enables the FDA to focus more on preventing food safety problems. The Sanitary Transportation of Food Rule allows the transportation industry to continue to use best practices concerning cleaning, inspection, maintenance, loading and unloading, and operation of vehicles to prevent adulteration linked to food safety and to enhance ongoing food safety throughout our industry. It's critical for drivers to possess an awareness of potential food safety problems that may occur during transportation. Records of your training will be kept for no fewer than 12 months. Vehicles and transportation equipment. The design and maintenance of vehicles and transportation equipment must be such to ensure that it does not cause the food that it transports to become unsafe. Vehicles and transportation equipment must be designed and of such material and workmanship to be suitable and adequately cleanable for their intended use to prevent food from becoming unsanitary. Vehicles and transportation equipment must be maintained in such sanitary condition for that their intended use to prevent food from becoming unsafe. Vehicles and transportation equipment used for food requiring temperature control for safety must be designed, maintained, and equipped with adequate temperature control to prevent the food from becoming unsafe. Vehicles and transportation equipment must be stored in a manner that prevents harborage of pests or becoming contaminated in any other manner that could result in food becoming unsafe. The measures taken during transportation to ensure food safety, such as adequate temperature controls, prevention contamination of ready-to-eat food from touching raw food, protection of food from contamination by non-food items in the same load or previous load, and protection of food from cross-contact. General requirements. Applies to all shippers, carriers, loaders, and receivers. A person may be subject to these requirements in multiple capacities. General requirements. Competent supervisory personnel must be assigned the task of ensuring compliance with the STF requirements. Transportation operations must be conducted so as to prevent food from becoming unsafe, including taking measures such as segregation, isolation, and packaging to separate foods. Relevant factors such as animal food versus human food, raw material versus finished food must be specified in determining the necessary conditions and controls for the transportation operation. If there's any indication of a possible material failure of temperature control or other conditions that may render the food unsafe, the food shall not be sold or otherwise distributed until it is determined by a qualified person that it is safe to do so. The carrier must ensure that vehicles and equipment meet the shipper's specifications. Upon completion of the transport, and if requested by the receiver, the carrier must provide the operating temperature specified by the shipper. Carriers must pre-cool each mechanically refrigerated cold storage compartment as specified by the shipper. If requested by the shipper, a carrier that offers a bulk vehicle must identify the previous cargo. If requested by a shipper, a carrier that offers a bulk vehicle must provide recent cleaning information. Carriers must specify practices for cleaning, sanitizing if necessary, and inspecting vehicles and transportation equipment to maintain them in appropriate sanitary condition, describe how it will comply with the temperature control requirements, and describe how it will comply with provisions for the use of bulk vehicles. Training is required when the carrier and shipper agree that the carrier is responsible for sanitary conditions during the transport, including record keeping. Records must be maintained of written procedures, agreements, and training. It's required of all carriers. The required retention time for these records depends upon the type of record and when the covered activity occurred, but does not exceed 12 months. The relationship between shippers, carriers, loaders, and receivers is key to maintaining an uninterrupted cold chain that allows for the safe transit of food cargo. The end goal is to ensure a seamless cold chain that includes a positive working partnership that benefits all parties. In the end, carriers and loaders and receivers should verify that they have the final detailed instructions and requirements from the shippers in writing to ensure compliance. Vehicles and transportation equipment must be stored in a manner that prevents harborage of pests or becoming contaminated in any other manner that could result in food becoming unsafe for human or animal consumption. Transportation operations must be coordinated such that the food is transported in a sanitary manner. Clearly defined and written transportation procedures specifically related to maintaining food safety must be developed and shared with all parties involved in the transport of perishable foods. The type of goods being transported will determine the temperature requirements. Specified numeric temperature or a range of temperatures in either Fahrenheit or Celsius to be maintained during transport with identified tolerances. Shipper-specified transport temperatures, including set point temperatures, as well as upper control limit and lower control limit, are used to establish the desired temperature. Cleanliness prevents bacterial, chemical, and odor contamination of food product loads. Remove all loose debris and wash or sweep the floors clean. The floor drains and grooves should be free of debris so drainage will not be blocked. Cleaning and sanitation of bulk food containers is a critical step in the food safety procedures and should include proper cleaning and sanitation procedures as well as information about the most recent cleaning of the trailer. Equipment transporting human or animal food items requires a higher level of inspection and maintenance. Equipment needs to be clean and otherwise suitable for the transport of food items or goods associated with the manufacturer of food items. Before picking up a load, always run the refrigeration unit in high-speed cool for at least 20 minutes and perform an automatic pre-trip test. The unit must pass the pre-trip test. Pre-tripping the refrigeration unit and documenting the time and date of pre-trip is a key and required ingredient to assuring that the refrigeration unit is operating correctly and to preventing losses and mitigating claims and litigation. Users should set the unit controller to the desired set point temperature and other settings. Select the proper operating mode as appropriate for the cargo being transported and/or per shipper requirements. Choose either the continuous run or the start-stop mode appropriate for the cargo being transported. Before loading product, pre-cool the trailer or container to the desired carrying temperature unless otherwise specified by the shipper and carrier. Turn the refrigeration unit off when product is ready to be loaded and before box doors are opened. Pre-cooling trailers is a critical part of the refrigerated distribution process and represents an industry best practice for carriers. Pre-cooling trailers may take up to 2 hours and possibly more to maintain stable temperatures. Proper loading will help ensure cargo quality and condition, and it's maintained throughout its journey and mitigate risk for carriers. Carriers should always cross-check procedures with the shipper/PCQI food safety plan to ensure requirements are met and actions are taken to ensure compliancy. Turning off the refrigeration unit when the doors are open prevents moisture from accumulating on the evaporator coil, ice accumulation on the coil, poor refrigeration performance, blockage of conditioned air movement to the cargo. Load the product quickly and efficiently and use loading patterns that maximize air circulation around and through the entire load for frozen cargo and chill cargoes, respectively. Frozen products should always be palletized and centerline loaded in order to maintain a cold air envelope around all 6 sides of the load. The pallet placement in a trailer must allow conditioned air to pass between the load, walls, and the floor. Air flows between the walls and the load only if the pallets or cargo are not touching the walls. Cargo height should not extend high enough to touch the air chute. Verify the product being loaded is within the appropriate temperature limits for the product type. Temperature verification can usually be accomplished by placing a calibrated thermometer. If the order does not completely fill the trailer, a load bar should be used to stabilize the load. Any product damaged during the trailer being loaded should be immediately addressed according to the customer's previously stated expectations. Care should be taken to ensure that the top cases in the trailer do not inhibit airflow. Loading the trailer should proceed in an expeditious manner to prevent product temperature abuse. Place a unique security seal on the truck door and record the seal number on the shipping paperwork. Appropriate records should be maintained for all activities for traceability and recall purposes. Stacking cargo directly on the floor or against the sidewalls can cause product warming or chilling. The checkout personnel should validate that the paperwork is accurately and completely filled out. The driver will be handed all appropriate paperwork as well as the gate pass if necessary. The driver should sign any appropriate paperwork as necessary, including driver logs, bills of lading, etc., and provide copies. The site will maintain similar copies following corporate or local retention policies. The driver is now clear for departure. The local site should update its logs and paperwork, noting the time that unloading of the trailer was completed as well as the time the driver was cleared for departure. Monitoring the trailer while in transit provides the operator with valuable information about the quality and performance of the trailer and driver. It is imperative that the compartmental air temperatures are being monitored on a real-time basis. If the air temperature is properly maintained, the product temperature cannot go out of threshold specification. Data collection of real-time transit information requires the use of a telematics device. At the conclusion of the trip or the route, drivers should conduct a post-trip inspection to verify the conditions of their vehicles.